All right, greetings, gods and goddesses in training. Welcome back to the channel. It is Uncle Makara. All relations. Today we're talking about an incredible book, one book that I've at least gone back to multiple times throughout my life. And this is one of those books that really woke me up and made me start to understand the power of resistance, okay? Now, resistance is a very, very important concept in this book to understand, but I'm going to be breaking it down for you guys in terms of a more of a primal sutra lens, you could say. Okay, so let's get started. Before I forget, actually, I'm going to share this with the tribe. And as we start talking about this, this is such an interesting book because it really goes to show you why so many artists and creatives go through these mental blocks, go through procrastination, go through all of these different things that they start to struggle with instead of actually taking action on it and, growing from it. So Stephen Pressfield teaches that the closer you get to the work that truly matters for your soul's evolution, the more violently that resistance will rise to stop you. It'll show up as fear, as self-doubt, as procrastination, as distraction, and even the seductive excuse to turn back, and that your destiny hinges on recognizing this force for what it is and pushing through it. Because on the other side of that threshold lives the very growth, mastery, and self-realization that you were born for, right? And so let me just share a whiteboard. That way it'll be just easier in describing all these different concepts. So if you understand, so let's just say the world of art breakdown. Okay. Welcome to the live stream, everybody. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button if you're new. And if you're tuning in for the first time, just type it in the live chat, whatever you're up to. Hey there, I like my in caps locks, babes. She says, hi, my sweetheart. So she's claiming me. I like that. So let's talk about the soul's evolution, okay? So this is kind of like your war map because you have a preloaded mission. You gave yourself this random family, this random set of circumstances, your ethnicity, where you were born. All these things matter, you know? All these things matter. You arrive encoded with a divine blueprint, a dharma that's written before you ever had a name, right? And so this is not a blank slate. It's a retrieval operation. And there's two voices in the war room. The voice of ego and the voice of self. Okay. The voice of ego you can also see as resistance, correct? And the voice of self can also be seen as the soul. However, I would say even go so far as to say the muse, as Stephen Pressfield describes. Okay. Now, you would some people would understand that a muse is somebody else that the artist uses to actually get in touch with inspiration, right? This is what we know the muse to be. But through this lens, it's almost understanding, yes, they're a reminder or a reflection of what is already within you. The muse is already within you, right? So it's a beautiful kind of understanding that, well, so the ego or resistance, it keeps you in stasis, right? It, it it doesn't help you grow because it's just serving fear. It's just craving the tribal approval, right? However, the self calls you into the dangerous work that will strip you of your old skin. And this is Mystica. This is that work, right? So it's actually very, very powerful. And why evolution hurts is the tribe's ancient reinforcement tool was rejection, to expel the one who changes too much, right? Get the person out of the tribe who's transforming too fast. So well, I should say soul evolution feels like social death, okay? Because it dissolves the identity that you've been feeding for survival for so many years. So Equal and opposite to resistance, there are currents personified as muses, angels, deities, genius, okay, whose sole function is to assist your evolution when you take the first step. Now, again, guys, this is through my own understanding and my own lens, okay? So take what I say with a grain of Himalayan salt and always start to understand these powers are dormant until you commit, right? So then they can kind of converge as a strike team as all of your ideas start to integrate together properly, okay? So to master fear isn't failure, it's success. True success is the total identity annihilation and initiation into your real rank. Okay. So a lot of people I've seen fear their own light. Okay. They fear their shadow for sure, but a lot of people also fear their own light. And that's the golden shadow, right? So this is important to understand because if we look at our work as an evolutionary lever, right? That every day we show up, we push the wheel of our own becoming, and then your art is the gym where the soul trains for the next form, right? So let's get it. Good morning to everyone. Hi, Andrea G. Hey, Andrea. Okay, so resistance is like the demon at the gate, right? Its nature is a psychic predator that feeds on your unlived life. Okay? It's shape-shifting, it's invisible, it's insidious, it's self-generated. So it can look like fear, laziness, healing obsession, victimhood, over-preparation, drama, even sex, right? So resistance is the astral parasite guarding your dharma. And the closer you get to your soul's work, the harder it starts to attack, especially right before a breakthrough. So this is why we've got to use resistance as a compass. Make resistance the reason why you push forward. You get what I mean? The hesitation that you feel, the anxiousness that you feel, the I don't really know, that's leaning you into your edge. That's leaning you into your soul mission. Okay? So the more fear or avoidance you give something, the more it's the exact door that you got to kick open. Okay? So turning pro is what Stephen Pressfield calls the initiation, okay? The turning pro. So to go from amateur dabbling to warrior monk of your craft, you got to show up every day, no excuses, full commitment for life. This is the rite of passage from dreamer to operative in the temple of execution, right? Because the pro doesn't wait for inspiration. They summon it through their ritual discipline. So show up no matter what and stay the whole session. Focus on your craft, not the applause that you get from your craft, and be as patient as hell. Okay, you got to play the long game. So the more you love something, the more resistance and fear it provokes. Okay, so love and fear as the soul's compass. This is proof it's your true work. Okay. So fear is the guardian of the treasure, and it points directly to your next initiation. Love is the fire that sustains you through the gates of hell. Are you getting this, guys? So the anti-magic of distraction. So resistance recruits a lot of different things, man, like self-dramatization. What's wrong with self-dramatization? It creates chaos while avoiding the real work. Self-medication, drugs, shopping, porn, gossip, all these things, right? Self-medicating. And then, of course, healing addiction. So, trying to be ready before finally starting. Okay. Um, Support groups are okay, but I feel that sometimes it's using comfort as a substitute for action, correct? like it just gets the echo chamber of just a bunch of soft people who don't really keep each other accountable, and it's just like, oh, everything is fine, everything is allowed, everything is jolly, but there's no real progress happening, right? So this is the beef that I have with it in a sense. Not that support groups are bad. Support groups can be very, very useful. Okay. And of course, rationalization. Okay. This is true sounding excuses, guys, are still lies, right? Okay, that doesn't matter if it sounds true. Okay, you can rationalize all you want. But these are like the black magic sigils of stagnation. Okay. Catastrophizing, yeah, exactly, Andrea. So we've got to understand that the professional's code is very different, correct? Because in the professional's code, what are you doing? You're showing up every day, right? What are you doing as a professional artist, a creator, creative? You're showing up every day, okay? Doesn't matter the weather, the mood, the circumstances, irrelevant, okay? You're working first, you're handling life second, right? So that means urgency does not equal importance. They're two different things, right? This is why in the Eisenhower matrix or whatever, you have the most urgent, most important, right? They're two different categories. So detaching from results. Why? Because you're serving the work, you're not serving the ego. Okay. Then the professional also masters misery, meaning they love the grind and they dine on rejection. Bring it on is the mentality. Bring it on. I can take any challenge in regards to flow state. Let's go. Right? So live in order is to banish chaos from your space and mind. Focus on technique. Why? Because let the gods handle the inspiration for you. And you act in fear's presence, meaning you never wait to be fearless, you just are. Um, Resistance grows stronger when you feed it. And how do you feed it? With excuses. So no excuses and seeking mastery and mentorship, membership too. Never assume that you've arrived, okay? And also, it's really, really important, guys, to also guard your instrument, okay? Guard your instrument. It's really important to guard your instrument because what do I mean by guard your instrument? What I mean is you don't over-identify with your craft or your tools, right? You're guarding it in a sense using your own energetics, okay? So resistance is like a training partner. It will sharpen you if you fight it daily. Yep. And you walk towards what terrifies you. So fear is the doorway to the deity card, right? It unlocks the root chakra because you overcome your fear of death, technically, the death drive as we were talking about yesterday, and so forth. Um, Discipline is like an invocation, right? Because ritual action opens the channel to your muse or your God self. So the act summons the spirit, not the other way around. Execution is greater than inspiration. Because the more you do the action steps, the more you get an understanding of the wisdom that starts flowing in, right? First you do the action, then the wisdom shows up. It's not like you have the wisdom enough and then you can finally take action. This is how a lot of people work, right? But it's your craft is like your sadhana, it's your meditation, right? So it's like it's a spiritual war that's disguised as work. So we got to understand a couple of things from the War of Art book is that you're not your body, your voice, or your talent. These are just the weapons issued to you for this incarnation. So identify with the commander, which is what is the commander idea? The commander would be like consciousness plus will, okay? Intention plus will we were talking about the other day, okay? Not the weapon. The deity uses the vessel never defines the deity, okay? So never take either success or failure personally. The pro's soul isn't parked in the ego. It's stationed in the high citadel of mission. So that means the rejection, humiliation, or resistance's external camouflage. Editors, critics, random forgotten meetings, they're just its pawns, right? We call them handlers or people who are like trying to slow down your spiritual mission or whatever, right? So the Primal Sutra translation is your altar is internal, right? No priest outside grants you a blessing. It gets activated from your belief system. So the professional absorbs uh, blows without giving resistance extra ammunition. So you stay in the area even if you're stomped by the bull, because the stand breeds decay. The stands breed decay. So better to bleed on the field than rot in the bleachers. Okay, the muse may call you to multiple incarnations. So don't get trapped in one skin, right? Shed the old body like a snake to follow the soul's next hunt. The deity current changes masks all the time, so you must as well. Okay, run your creative life like a sovereign enterprise. This is a very important datum. Separate the you who works from the you who commands. This separation allows resilience against both attack and inflation. So that means you're the CEO of your incarnation, and your only shareholder is the soul's mission. Okay? So resistance is fueled entirely by your fear. If you stand your ground to the bully, it folds, right? If you ignore a bully for long enough, they fold. They're looking for that reaction. They want to feed on your reaction, kind of like an archon or like a parasite would, right? They feed on your reaction. So the pro wins by being more implacable than resistance, like a Spartan who keeps coming, right? So outlast the demons. Even eternity bows to endurance. Even eternity bows to endurance. Now, I'm not saying crush yourself because of, going through the pain like this, but there is a certain willpower that adepts need, right, on this path. And there are unseen many opposing forces to resistance, of course. And there are many genius currents, angels, muses, like I said. Now, whether you see them as divine beings or evolutionary instincts, they align with you when you show up daily. When you grind, you open the channel to the God line, and the current moves in your favor. I'm not talking about grinding yourself to a halt, of course, right? But I mean just getting the momentum running, the fuel going, right? So ritual invocation is a sacred opening of the circuit, that the artist's equivalent of a warrior sharpening the blade before battle, right? So when you work with invocation, not hesitation, you address the higher realm as a comrade in arms. So I saw someone, I think Ferris, you dropped some quotes or something. So this is from William Blake: the higher realms desire what only incarnated beings can make. Right? So your work is an offering from the gods. They can't produce themselves. That's why they nudge you. So you are the bridge between the timeless and the time bound. This is the deity's only hands in matter. So all great work already exists in the higher sphere of pure potential without body. Your role is to be the corporeal being that drags that fire, that Promethean flame, right, into the material plane. So you're a summoner of divine architecture. Your genius is the channel, your muse is the deity, whispering coordinates to your soul. And before beginning, you just show respect to any unseen powers, your ancestors, gods, muse, the source energy, anything like this. And then, you know, oh, sometimes even prayer can be very effective. But really starting to understand to bow to the force that can make or break you, right? Efface arrogance. Ask not for brilliance, only the sustenance of the work. So commitment is the trigger for providence, right? Boldness opens a portal. When you start, angels or midwives appear to assist the birth of your truest self all of a sudden. So the universe will not deploy resources until you cross the threshold and lock the gates behind you. Okay? If I have a door closed behind me, that means I cannot access the past anymore. Correct? Which actually gives me a lot of freedom in the now. So the ego believes only in the material, right? It operates from fear and clings to status and safety. But the self, the eternal self, I mean, like God connected, rooted in unity, moves through evolution and creation. So think of resistance is the ego's bodyguard. Okay. So it shows up as these different defenses, right? Defense mechanisms. And the muse speaks from the self, that eternal space, that God connected space. Right. So you're seating your consciousness in the self, and the ego loses its command post. The master fear. Beneath the fear of failure is a greater fear, fear of your own power. Okay. We fear success because it exiles us from the tribe. It demands we live up to our divine calling, and it kills the old self. Okay. When I had left my old tribe, I had fully doubled down on my calling. I know exactly what I wanted to do, actually. And that's why there was a disconnect, because there was a power struggle. Now, this is an ego death, the doorway to deityhood. The cold void you fear is the womb of your true kin. Damn, I don't know where that came from. Quotables, okay? Some of the guides help. You're not a blank slate, right? You come in with a soul-encoded assignment. The mission is not to invent yourself, but to remember and become yourself. So any deviation breeds decay. Okay. Let's see here. Oh, hey, Icy. They play on unawareness. So yeah, numbness is the way they playing with that. Hey, Samba's here, fully committed. Also, pride is their main game. Once you are humble and have humility, they get mad. Absolutely. Pride and lust for men, envy and vanity for women. Anyways, walk through the fire. That's right. Defenselessness, my safety lies. Right? In my defenselessness, safety lies. I was seeing this thing on Facebook actually, the Course in Miracles, Mathis. I'm gonna see if I can pull it up. Um, it's quite funny as well because it was this supposed to be Joey? The other Joey, not not our Joey Samba, our Joey. I'm like claiming it or whatever. It's another Joey. What did he post? Yeah, here we go. The holiest place on earth is where an ancient hatred becomes a present peace, right? Isn't that wonderful? The holiest place on earth is where an ancient hatred becomes a present peace. And it's, of course, it's just Mike Tyson, holding a Course in Miracles with a pigeon or something in his hand. But yeah, regardless, yeah, A Course in Miracles is a great reference. So remember, you're not a blank slate. You come in with soul-coded assignments, right? And the mission is not to invent yourself, but to remember and become yourself. Okay? Now, measuring worth by rank, opinion, market is the ego's trap because it creates hierarchy. Mathis was talking about this idea called confluence, right? Instead, we're flowing together. So, self-sustaining sacred ground is a territory. But we cannot work for applause in terms of creating a territory. We've got to work for love. So if you guard your territory like a three-legged coyote, invincible to your own ground, then yeah, then you're going to stay pretty chimed in and protected, right? So a hack bends the market, betraying their muse. You see, betrayal of your muse is soul prostitution, right? Always answering the inner call, not the outer demand. Okay? Leonidas, warrior, contempt for death. For the artist, contempt for failure. Okay? Your art is the offering. The result belongs to the gods. Beyond hierarchy and territory, do the work as an offering. Because you are an agent of the infinite, and your work is the sacrament. So you give back the fire that you've been entrusted with. Okay, so what's this end game that we're talking about? Let's look back at the professional's code. Okay, great. Okay, just reflecting on that for a bit. So here are a couple of things to note. Number one, you are a servant of eternity's vision. Resistance is the dragon guarding the gold. The muse rides with those who invoke her through discipline. The ego will try to kill your evolution. Starve it daily. Commit fully. Providence moves with you. Fear your own greatness, then walk straight into it. Okay. Work in your territory, answer to the self. And finally, number 8, give your creation back to source. This is really my proper understanding from these guys, because this is the ultimate teaching. Okay. All the time, we get very perturbed and caught up with our own gimmicks, own lies, our own sedentary ways. Okay. That it starts to actually take away from our power. Whereas we know that if we commit daily, if we understand that resistance becomes the reason for us to take action, if we understand that if we're working in our territory, and we're answering to the self or the muse. All of these things are going to just crystallize in the right coordinates, right? It won't need to be this extraneous thing that I'm trying to force. Okay. So understanding this really gives us a proper connection to this. Because, hey, as I said a couple of lives ago, imagination is the greatest nation ever. So what if we could use our imaginations to destroy, right? Using our imaginations to destroy resistance. Okay? Let's end on this note. So, imagination, okay, and resistance. You see, resistance is nothing but a shadow pretending to be a wall. The amateur argues with the shadow, measures the shadow, complains about the shadow. The pro, oh, you guys are going to love this. Pro summons a world in which it never existed. That's the kill shot. Okay? The pro summons a world in which it never existed. You see, resistance has no matter of its own. It's a parasite, a ghost that lives inside the dimensions you allow it. So stop fighting on its turf. Step into the dimension of your own making, one where the muse is real, where allies move like divine special forces, right? Where your future self is already sitting on the throne. I understood from Hilarion channeling, the last channeling we did, that Momento Futurum was actually a reminder of remembering my most optimal future, okay? And that actually changes things. He always said, remember the future, remember the future. And I never really got it. But that translation was needed for me, okay? So in this mind space, resistance can't even breathe. Your imagination floods the battlefield with an atmosphere it cannot metabolize. So this is why we're using our imagination appropriately. Then resistance gasps, weakens, it vanishes. You don't overcome it, you just make it irrelevant. Okay, you're about to give a speech, you feel some nervousness, that's the resistance, right? You're like, oh, the engine is turning on, right? The vroom, that's that energy. Okay, I'm gonna use this. I'm not gonna run from this. Wow, I haven't really spoken in public in a while. This is kind of awkward, right? You start like that. Boom, it's gone. Why? Because you just accepted your fate in that moment, right? You're humbling yourself to the gods. And in that, there's a primal truth that suddenly, now it's okay to be chill and make mistakes and be vulnerable in this moment. You see, so every time you use your imagination at the service of your dharma, you are actually retraining your nervous system to expect victory. Victory is mine. Okay. You are not just destroying today's resistance, you're teaching your soul that creation is your natural state and that fear is just the static you ignore on the way to the target. The shadow will try to return. Good. Let it. It'll only find that the kingdom is once haunted, is now occupied by a sovereign being who builds worlds faster than resistance can burn them. Okay? So let's wrap up with this. I hope you guys enjoyed this live stream. Do we have any questions, anything coming up for y'all? Okay. A. SLW, man, gotta join these earlier, bro. All right. Just when I end. He's gotta join just when I end. Bro, it's the same with the channelings. It's like fucking last second. You're like, oh yeah. Boom. Anyway, let's see who's on. Also, it's a spiral sometimes. You repeat to remember. That's right. Always a new, fresh pair of eyes through looking at the spiral, right? And as you're going inwards, you have now new tools, new lenses, new archetypes to peer through the same trauma that's been kind of pulling you back. But now, as you try to actually witness it, now it starts to ease, right? So we actually need to witness that pain body and slow it down and soften it and show ourselves compassion through it to actually have it be a little bit more dissolved, right? Mathis says, got a main quest for me now. That's why I have to unhook from their hooks. That's right. They hijack your God-given design, spoken word, and imagination. Then all changes. That's right. That's right, man. And the moment you watch all these shows you'll start together, they really don't want us to imagine things, right? They don't want us to imagine a beautiful world. Because why are all these movies fucking violent, bro? Why are all these movies full of sex, drugs, rock and roll, right? A bunch of this nonsense. Like, hey, a little bit of that is great, right? A little bit of that is fine. It's absolutely, um, optimal, but we've gone overboard, it seems like, right? We're going absolutely to the deep end because we have no connection to source. The moment you lose connection to source, even in anything that you do, right? Like it's different if you're like Ozzy Osbourne and you're doing that like black magic shit as an act, but you're really a follower of Christ. Like that's a different way or framework rather than somebody who's actively doing dark shit and openly talking about it like Crowley, right? Like there's a discernment that we got to make between these individuals and people who come in with this technology. Now, I'm not saying that just bypass their tech, right? Don't just bypass their tech. There was something useful in it. That's why it gained popularity or some kind of status or whatever. It won the Emmys or some shit. But it doesn't matter if it just won the Emmys. That doesn't give you a good reason to watch it. That's the conformist way, right? Yeah, but this song won a Grammy, sweetheart. That's why you should like it. It's like, no, actually, I'm allowed to like my own music, right? Just because it's a top bestseller or a, blockbuster hit doesn't make it the truth. And that's one thing that I've come to realize quite recently, right? But yeah, try speaking out loud in public, you'll get resistance. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that resistance is valid because again, it's like the fear of being outcasted or like, sent away from the tribe. I totally get that. If you honestly just speak your mind, speak your truth, the truth always wins, man. You know what I mean? So as long as you are tapped into that current of coherence, of understanding, of deep cohesion, right? And integration, then it doesn't really matter like what comes up as a byproduct. It's like you are going to get the goal. It's just going to take a longer time, right? Like I was manifesting Ellie into my life since 2022. Okay. So think about how many years that is. It's like 3 years, right? Yeah, my math is terrible. Uh, 3 years or so, right? So it's like it's really important for us to reflect back towards how these peak experiences actually started to manifest. Because it is only through that that we can start to excavate and figure out that this is the way for me. This is the truth for me. This is the adjustment for me. Okay? So make sure that you understand the resistance is just like a signpost, right? That's just coming to you and telling you that, hey, we're gonna have to show up. I'm sorry about this, but we're gonna have to show up. You're on your mission. I get it. Like you're trying to get to the finish line, but we're here to slow you down. That's our job, okay? Unfortunately, it's our job. Like we don't really want to slow you down, but it is what it is, and we kind of have to move this away from your backyard because it is what it is. And it's like, is that really it is what it is, or are you trying to like manipulate my belief system to make me on board with this nonsense, right? So in your reality, these resistances are just like little like invisible furniture. You're like, okay, I guess I accidentally sat on the chair that I was supposed to sit on when there really wasn't a chair even there. It was an invisible chair, right? So this is the way that you kind of want to understand resistance, is this invisible substrate thing that's just causing a tension or a slowing down. However, if you just sit with it, you will notice how ridiculous it actually is. Few deep breaths into the resistance, and it starts to wilt like a flower that's not getting enough sunlight or water, right? So, yes, say it out loud, expose it to the light, expose it back to source, reorient it back to source, right? Take the thing that is really bothering you and just let go of that problem, but you're not letting go and it's leaving, you're letting it go so source can handle it. Okay? Hey, my father can handle this. Don't worry about it. Okay? This is the energy that you want to come working with and moving with. And again, this is the war of art. Okay? Thank you to Stephen Pressfield. There's a lot of great quotables from the book too. Shall we see some of the quotables before we end? Yeah, let's do that. Okay, let's check them out. Resistance will tell you anything to keep you from doing your work. It will perjure itself. It will falsify. It will tell you you're not ready. The more important a call or action is to your soul's evolution, the more resistance we will feel towards pursuing it. Are you paralyzed with fear? That's a good sign. Fear is an indicator. The more scared we are of our work or calling, the more sure we can be that we have to do it. The amateur believes he must first overcome his fear, then he can do his work. The professional knows fear can never be overcome. He knows there's no such thing as a fearless warrior or a dread-free artist. You see how in this paradigm is just accepting fear for what it is. It's not like trying to bypass it and say that I'm fearless, right? A lot of people try to access fearlessness, and in the process of that, they lose the very like juice of life in a sense, right? So the most important thing about art is to work. Nothing else matters except sitting down every day and trying. I mean, this is just basically summing up his books, guys, right? Mainly this book, but irregardless, it really sums it up, like all these quotes. Resistance will outweight you, outsmart you, outwork you. It will pervade your thoughts and fill you with self-doubt. Resistance will pervert the truth. It will pervert love. It will pervert hope. Really get this, guys. The next one is the professional loves her work. She's invested wholeheartedly in it, but she does not forget that the work is not her. The work is not her identity. It is her offering. The professional plays it as it lays. Whatever happens, he accepts it. He doesn't get lost in the weeds of what should be. Two more, guys, okay? Number 9 says, creative work is a gift to the world and every being in it. Don't cheat us your contribution. Give us what you got. Okay? And finally, resistance will tell you you don't have the time, you don't have the money, you don't have the training. It will pervert truth and it will tell you you can't start until you're perfect. Okay, guys. So thank you so much for tapping in. I have a session right now. Gotta head out. Okay. Stay legendary. May the flow be with you and stay epic. Okay. We got this. You got this. Upward spiral gang. May we never be the same again. And may the flow be with you. So be it. Amen. Shalom. Salam. Swahab. Thank you.